morning. Joining us right now, we've got Senator Tom Cotton, a Republican from the great state of Arkansas. And good morning to you, Senator.
Good morning.
Good morning. Great to be on with y'all.
It's great to have you as well. Listen, as we join you there at the Q Center this morning, we've actually got a Fox News alert. You know, that terrible train attack yesterday with the axe in Germany, it's just been announced that apparently ISIS is now claiming responsibility for the attack. Your response, sir?
Well, I've seen that the Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the train attack in Germany and for the truck attack last week in France. This is part of their mode of operating. They encourage their followers not to travel to Syria if they face any risk of apprehension, but rather to stay in their home countries and attack their fellow citizens with whatever means possible. This is a little bit different than what we saw in Al-Qaeda 15 years ago that focused on spectacular attacks. So while the deaths or casualties number in the dozens, not the thousands, it means also that these attacks are likely to be more common. That's one reason why we can't simply sit on defense in the war on terror. We have to hit them harder and hit them faster.
Senator, everyone was looking forward to your speech, and you did extremely well last night, in my humble opinion. I was in the arena at the time. I like to add to this. What I think is so different about the last 7 years, unlike the previous challenges, the same challenge that we had with the previous 8 years, is that no one acknowledges that this is a terror attack. In Orlando, they want to blame guns. In Nice, they said it was a crazy guy. Well, he was studying the Orlando attack, and ISIS took credit for him. This guy screamed Allah Akbar and had a knife and an axe and was an illegal immigrant from Afghanistan, and people are trying to soft pedal the reality of it. Why do you see the reality and so many others aren't?
Well, all these attacks are terrorist attacks by radical Islamic jihadis. It doesn't matter whether they fly planes into buildings or whether they take a knife or an axe onto a train. They are all directed or inspired by groups like the Islamic State or Al-Qaeda. And frankly, I don't see much of a distinction between those two. First, the victims are just as dead if it was inspired as directed. And second, we didn't see many inspired attacks 2 years ago before the Islamic State rose to power. And you make a good point, too. It's a reminder of just how dangerous the decision was last year in Europe to let in hundreds of thousands of unvetted migrants from the Middle East. It's a reminder of how we have to enforce our borders and make sure we know exactly who's coming here and that they do not pose a risk to the American people.
That had a lot to do with the theme we heard last night. Here's a little from Sheriff Clark and Rudy Giuliani thinking about America first and security. Let's listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to make something very clear. Blue lives matter in America. So many of the actions of the Occupy movement and Black Lives Matter transcends peaceful protest and violates the code of conduct we rely on. I call it anarchy.
And we say thank you to every police officer and law enforcement agent who's out tonight protecting us, black, white, Latino, of every race, every color, every creed, every sexual orientation. When they come to save your life, they don't ask if you are black or white. They just come to save you. What happened to there's no black America, there's no white America, there is just America. What happened to it? Where did it go?
Senator, what did you think about Rudy's comments? Pretty powerful.
And Sheriff.
Yeah, Rudy gave a great speech. It was quite a stem winder. The Republican Party always backs the blue. We always thank, appreciate, and support our law enforcement officers. And I think it's important that anytime there's any kind of use of force by the police, that we don't jump to conclusions. We let the investigation occur, we get the facts, and we don't fan the flames of racial tensions. Too many political leaders do that today, when what we need to do, especially in the wake of 2 assassinations of police officers, is support our law enforcement officers as they do the very difficult job of keeping us safe on our streets.
Right. You know, I think, Senator, one of the things people who watch this week and next week will be struck by is the 2 different approaches to politics in America right now. We're seeing what the Republicans' goal is. You know, it is the law and order candidacy. Donald Trump made that very clear. last week. And Hillary Clinton, if you like what she's done in the last 20 years in American politics, you got a clear choice, the businessman or the lifelong politician.
Well, there's no one in American politics today that embodies and symbolizes the failed status quo of stale liberal ideas of the last 40 years than Hillary Clinton. So you're hearing a very different message from the Republican Party this week. It is a message of law and order, that we're going to defend our safety on our streets and we're going to defend our national security abroad.
Yeah, you believe firmly that Donald Trump's going to win. I know you've said in the past we've been leading from behind, but you're saying help is on the way.
Yeah, after 8 years of Democratic and Obama budgets, our military is woefully underfunded. We're having to borrow from training aircraft just to make sure our planes fighting the Islamic State are able to stay in the skies. Our troops are barely getting the training they need before they go overseas, which means we're robbing our seed corn for future weapons and investments in our future troops. That has to stop. And in the future, in a Trump-Pence administration with a Republican Congress, our troops will know help is on the way.
Senator, you're an Ivy League grad who decides to serve in the military with tons of options. Then you want to get into the infantry. You go to Congress, you win. You go to the Senate, you win. People are saying you're the future of the party in many respects. What is your response? And I have no idea what it is. To the Governor Kasichs of the world, to the Jeb Bushes of the world, Ted Cruz perhaps, who just don't seem to be able to get over the loss and don't seem to be supporting Donald Trump.
Well, it's very kind. I've had lots of folks here from around the country express their support for me. I'm very grateful to be serving in the U.S. Senate, working for Arkansas and working for America. I'm very glad to have a little baby at home and another one on the way this Christmas. So that's where my focus is going to be over the next few months, is doing my work in the Senate and on my family. Thank you.
And what about the others that aren't on board with Donald Trump?
I think we'll come out of this convention not just unified, but growing our party as well. We need to acknowledge as Republicans, it's not enough to win a national election with Republican or conservative votes. We have to appeal to independents, to moderates, and to Democrats as well. Democrats have to do that too, though, and I think that we're going to be better positioned to do that this fall, to win the White House, to win the Senate, and to win the House.
Well, it's going to be an exciting fall, especially for your family at home. Congratulations to you on the new baby.
All right.
And nice speech last night, Senator. Good job.